Hi, I'm Holly Uffendale.
And I'm Kira Morellen. Welcome to The Signal Socially Distanced from the University of King's College School of Journalism in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
This week, getting ready for Chinese New Year and other events around town on this long holiday weekend.
But first, one of the city's oldest charities is finding itself in a volunteer squeeze. Brunswick Street Mission has lost some of its traditional helpers because of the pandemic restrictions, and as Holly found out, they're looking in new directions for help.
Jocelyn McLean has supported and volunteered at Brunswick Street Mission for years. After losing her job during COVID, she returned to the mission as their food bank manager.
So I think it's really important to volunteer to learn about your community, and that's why I do it, really.
Brunswick Street Mission offers support ranging from a breakfast program to a food and clothing bank to tax help for people on low incomes. During the COVID-19 pandemic, they've had to make changes to the way they operate. Limited access to the clothing bank and, of course, their breakfast program. The kitchen is now entirely for takeaway.
We're kind of putting it back together and looking at our limitations. It's such a strange time right now. We're all kind of saying, where are we most needed?
All of their key programs, breakfast, clothing, and food bank, have stayed open throughout the pandemic. But while client numbers have remained stable, the volunteer base has not.
The volunteers who had to step out for health and other reasons, enough time has gone by. Most of them won't be able to return.
That's because when COVID hit, the retirees who have always made up most of the mission's volunteers needed to go home. At first, with schools and businesses closed, younger people filled the gap. Now the older volunteers still need to stay home. The younger ones are back at work and school. That leaves the mission looking for help.
COVID's making us do two things. We have to keep working at what's going on right in front of us, but you still have to look down the road. So it's kind of, we're allowing ourselves to open up a little bit and allowing ourselves to plan for more opportunities.
Their new strategy will be to reach out to those younger people and encourage them to make a regular commitment. Nicholas says a student schedule can lend itself to a regular shift. For The Signal, I'm Holly Uffendale. The pandemic has been hard on just about everybody's mental health, and students are hit particularly hard. So you'd expect those notorious lineups at university counseling centers to be worse than ever.
But I've been calling around, and it turns out that's not the case. Dealing with a pandemic and getting a degree at the same time is as stressful as you can imagine. So I spoke with David Pylon, and he's the Director of Counseling and Psychological Services at Dalhousie University. He says that their services are not being used as much as they were prior to COVID. So last year, in an average week, there were about 100 same-day appointments available to students dealing with mental health issues, and there was often a lineup, especially after Christmas. And they planned for the same numbers this year, except online, of course, and the demand is actually down. So about 80 people are looking for those 100 appointments, but that doesn't mean there's no problem. In fact, Pylon says the problem is larger this year.
If there's one thing that we're hearing from students very clearly is that the experience of being a student in the pandemic, with all of the implications that it has really added an extra burden.
Well, Kira, if there's an extra burden but fewer students making appointments, what's going on?
So Pylon thinks it could be due to a couple of things. First of all, a lot of people aren't in town, let alone on campus. So in spite of emailed reminders to students, a lot of people may just not be aware of the service. You know, we usually see those reminders on announcement polls. Your friends would let you know, and this is just not happening right now. And then there's Zoom fatigue. And the fact is that students are living at home and they may have access to other resources like their parents or their family doctors.
So what is Dow Counseling doing?
So they know the pressures are there, and they had to find new ways to reach out to students. Here's what Pylon had to say about that.
So that's why we're trying to support students in all the ways we can, not only with our individual counseling opportunities, but we've started a whole variety of new groups this year, just drop-in support groups to be able to give students an opportunity just to express themselves and to connect with other students who are experiencing some of the same thing.
They've started 3 new groups this year on top of the ones they already had. One is called Coping with the New Normal, another is for graduate students, and the third group is starting next week. It's about navigating relationships in the pandemic. The dating scene has been completely changed since March, and it's making some feel isolated.
So I guess people will need more help as this drags on?
Yeah, I asked about something I read this week called the pandemic wall, which is just this kind of tiredness that people encounter after, having been in this for so long and not knowing when it's going to end. And he says that's definitely a real thing for all of us.
It's getting kind of tiresome, and it's getting a little challenging to continue to deal with what we're dealing with.
So Holly, Dal Orking students can check in with all these programs at Dal Counseling Services. You can find them at dal.ca by searching Student Health and Wellness. And every university has similar services. Just because you're off campus, it doesn't mean they aren't there to help.
Good to know. Thank you, Kira.
You're welcome, Holly.
Chinese New Year is this weekend. It's one of the biggest holidays in the world, a huge family holiday. So when your family is in China and you're in Halifax, it's a time when the distance seems greater than ever. Ilya Kurbanov met a woman who's making the most of a new year far from home.
Dana Song and her fiance are getting ready for New Year. Close friends are coming over on the weekend, a far cry from huge celebrations that happen in China.
It sucks, but it's not uncommon for me because I have been in Canada for 7 years and I only been back home once.
Even away from her family, Song follows the New Year's traditions. Red decorations are called Fai Chun. The writings represent good luck and prosperity. Another tradition is to make dumplings.
The most popular one is definitely dumplings. A big thing for us is to the whole family sit together, make dumplings, like hang out together. This year, I'm gonna celebrate it with my good friends, and we're gonna come over. Everybody makes dumpling together. I wanna show them how.
Besides the dumplings, the weekend dinner will include the traditional dishes such as steam bun. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
Like for example, on my mom's side, there's 4 siblings, and not everybody is living in the same city. So during Spring Festival, everybody try to come together.
Song continues to follow the tradition. Although her family is away, she finds her way to celebrate it with those who are close. For The Signal, I'm Ilya Kurbanov.
As Valentine's Day approaches, 2 women want to give a nod to the partners who jumpstart their hearts. Partners who have made lockdown, loneliness, and job loss a bit more bearable.
And all those partners ask in return, water, food, and a scratch behind the ears. Will McLernan reports.
Love comes in many different forms. During the COVID-19 pandemic, all of Stephanie Gussie's love has been focused on her 6-year-old pup, Hunter. Gussie's adopted Hunter after he was found in a box at 5 weeks old, and their connection has been growing ever since.
There's no other love like it. He's my first ever dog, and I got him after my 19-year-old cat passed away, and he's a little rescue, and I've had cats all my life. It's not the same as having a dog. He is my best friend. He's my constant companion. We do everything together. And it's a love like I've never known before.
Due to COVID-19, Gussie's lost her job of 18 years. Being able to spend more time with Hunter has helped her cope with all the negative aspects of the pandemic.
I have friends who went into depression, just were jittery, missing contact so much. But because of him, I I just had this constant contact.
During Nova Scotia's second lockdown, Kayla Christensen decided she wanted a furry companion. In a spur-of-the-moment decision, she went on Kijiji and bought Pebbles. She believes it was one of the best decisions she's ever made.
Gave everyone in the house reasons to get outside, to go running, to explore. Like, definitely didn't feel as trapped the second time around.
Due to Nova Scotia's 14-day quarantine rule, Christensen wasn't able to go back home for the holidays. She believes it would have been a lot tougher if it weren't for Pebbles.
Oh, it was huge. I spent a lot of time here alone, and she was definitely a huge part of what got me through the quarantine and isolation. And even because our work was closed as well, so I didn't have that. So she was a huge helper. Wake up, she's right there, and then she's all excited. She's never in a bad mood. Always brightens everyone's day.
No matter how you're feeling, your dog's gonna love you. For The Signal, I'm Will McClernon.
Things are slowly opening up in Halifax, and just in time for Valentine's Day and the long Heritage Day weekend. Talia Mead has been checking out what it means for nightlife and other entertainment. Hi, Talia.
Hi. This long weekend, we actually have lots to do, at least by our current standards. Concerts, theaters, sports, and other entertainment venues are allowed to reopen at no more than 50% capacity, which is up to a maximum of 100 people, which of course is for indoors. But not all sports teams are taking advantage of that, and by a special arrangement, Scotiabank Centre can have up to 150 people in the arena. That means hockey games with fans. The only teams allowed inside this hockey bubble, along with the Mooseheads, are the Cape Breton Eagles and the Charlottetown Islanders. A lucky few can catch the Mooseheads Friday night at their home game against the Eagles.
150 is a small crowd, though. What about the rest of us?
Well, if you're looking to play some games, the casino is open. Games, arcades, axe throwing, wall climbing, and pool halls, these places are all ready for you to come back. If you're looking for something a little less hands-on, you can check out the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia, the Discovery Centre, or even a museum. The Halifax Public Libraries are also hosting virtual and live events at many of their locations. And there's actually this really cool event I found called Studio DIY. It's sold out for this weekend, but the library is putting more on later in the month. You can go play around with a sewing machine or even try your hand at some 3D printing.
So are most places getting right back into in-person events?
A lot are still somewhere in between in-person and online. I actually spoke with Events East. They promote events and spaces around town, and they told me that concerts in particular are still complicated to put on just yet, but bars like the Carlton are getting back to live and in-person music. There's actually a show every night this weekend, including a Valentine's special performance by the Tavon Tynes Trio. But if you're more of a theater junkie, there's nothing live there yet, but there are shows at Neptune, Rebecca Cohn, and Bus Stop Theatre that you can watch from the comfort of your couch. They're all streaming, so you can check out their websites. And we're also celebrating African Heritage Month, there's lots to do and check out there. This Saturday, the Halifax Jazz Festival is streaming a conversation with Joe Seeley and Charles Sewin.
But as usual, all of this could change tomorrow, right?
For sure. The current regulations go until March 7th, though of course, even that depends on case counts staying low and all of us doing the social distancing and masking thing.
Thanks, Talia.
You're welcome.
Finally, winter has hit Halifax in a big way. This week, we've had below zero temperatures after a major snowfall on Monday. We have two takes on the aftermath, first from Kira and then from Zarnagar Khan on Shovel Patrol.
On Monday morning, Queenpool neighborhood was shoveling snow, helping each other along the way. Some snow shovelers are matter-of-fact kind, like my landlord. He shovels like it's Call of Duty. Others do it for business. A few look at the bright side.
Good little workout. This is normal snow in Quebec, I tell you. You get this every weekend in Quebec.
Some just think it's fun. But nobody finds it more fun than this guy. For The Signal, this is Zarnigar Khan.
That's our show for this week. Check out more local news on our website at signalhfx.ca.
It's also our last show for this winter's visual storytelling workshop. We're on to another course for the rest of the year. Thanks for joining us.
From the University of King's College in Halifax, Nova Scotia, I'm Holly Uffendale.
And I'm Kira Morellen. Have a good long weekend.